My name is Neal Taylor, and I'm 80 years old.
And it's N-E-A-L.
N-E-A-L.
Taylor. And where do you live, Neal?
Live in Cayuga, New York.
Okay, and that's in Cayuga County?
In Cayuga County.
In central New York?
Central New York, on one of the Finger Lakes.
Okay.
Well, I think it's a good idea to have this on film and have find out some of the facts that happened, and I think that every war should have this done.
So you're interested in it to... Why are you interested? What are you...
Well, I want to see younger people realize what happened then, because there's so much lost in history that doesn't get printed and shown.
So you want this for posterity. You want this to be
Right.
shown forever.
Mm-hmm.
When your ashes are gone, and you want this to still be around.
Right.
Okay. When did you enlist in the military? Or were you drafted, or what?
I enlisted in the Air Force on September 7th, 1950.
And how old were you then?
19.
So you were 19 when you enlisted.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have a choice?
We had a choice in a way because a friend of ours was on the registration board for the draft, and she called and said, "You're being drafted next week into the Army." Hint, hint. So we went, 5 of us went over and enlisted in the Air Force.
So before you got drafted into the Army,
Yeah.
you enlisted into the Air Force.
Air Force, yeah.
Did you do it in downtown Auburn or Syracuse?
No, Syracuse.
Syracuse.
Mm-hmm.
And so you enlisted in the Air Force on the suggestion not to get drafted into the Army.
Right.
What was your specialty in the Air Force?
My specialty was remote control turret technician for B-29s, bombers.
In plain English, what did you do?
We set up and inspected and maintained the. Actually, if you were to, I'm trying to explain this. When the guns on a B-29 were all sighted in on these sights on the side of the plane, and that's what I was trained to maintain and repair and work on. But you put that on the enemy plane, but your guns might be pointed off in another direction. They were corresponding to your speed, the aircraft enemy's speed, and temperature and everything was involved in what we worked on.
So you had to make sure they were sighted in.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to make sure that where they were shooting was, the bullets were going where you wanted them to go.
Where you wanted them to go.
And these guns were controlled by the speed of the plane?
By the aircraft speed, the speed of the enemy's plane, by temperature, everything was taken in, and it was computer operated.
There was computers
well,
at that time?
It's not exactly a computer, but everything fed into this. It practically was a computer because everything fed into it, and all the mechanism worked. And as I say, the guns would be pointed out here, and the planes over there you're shooting at.
So it had to be coordinated.
Yeah, all the coordinated.
And you did this on the plane while it was flying?
No, you did this on the ground, but I never worked at it. I went to school for it in Lowry Air Force Base in Denver. Went back to TDY to my station in...
What's a TDY?
Temporary duty. Came back to Tyndall Air Force Base in Florida. Went back working on the flight line on radio repair. And then I was notified to go to California and be shipped overseas.
And you became a radio person?
Well, no, I ended up in armament on B-26 and B-25s that were left over from World War II.
Oh. So what you were trained for never sort of related a little bit?
I saw one that got shot up and landed at our base on B-29. I never saw one again.
Oh. So you still did similar things, like...
I was in the armament group, yes.
You made sure that those turrets, same kind of turrets?
No, entirely different. That was they all used like Kentucky windage. They had tracer bullets to see where the where the plane was shooting, where the guns were shooting. But I did do bore sighting, which was take the planes down to the end of the airfield, and you put a tube in the end of the gun and sighted it on a target downrange, 300-400 yards or so, and adjusted the guns to shoot out that way.
So was this typical of the Air Force or the Army or the military to train you for one thing and say, no, you're going to be doing something else?
I guess it wasn't typical. I guess it's just where they needed you. They needed me as a replacement in K9 in Korea. I was the first relief in for the Long Beach National Guard was there. Some of these fellows had been called down to the air base, they thought, for a weekend training, and they ended up in Korea. Some of them, their cards were still there at the base, air base in California.
So you did your basic training in Florida?
Yes, basic training was in San Antonio, Lackland, in Texas.
That was your boot camp.
Mm-hmm.
But your technical training
was at Tyndall Air Force Base in Panama City.
T-I-N-D-E-L?
T-Y-N.
T-Y-N. Is it southern Florida, northern Florida?
Oh, Panama City over in the Panhandle.
Okay, so southern Florida.
Mm.
Is it still there? Is that Air Force?
Yep, still there.
Still there.
Yeah.
Did you rotate around at all?
Not really. Went from there right from Florida to California to Korea, and came back and went to Lockburn Air Force Base in Columbus, Ohio.
So did you, being in the Air Force, did you go from Florida to California by airplane or train?
Trying to think. I came home and then flew out of Syracuse, actually, to San Francisco.
Okay, and then from San Francisco, where did you go?
I got on the boat.
Over the boat
on the
time.
ship. Yeah, we got on a ship, and 12 days crossing into Japan, get to Japan.
And you landed in Japan and did something there?
We just, we were there probably 8-10 days, and to be just waiting for orders to see where we were going.
You were probably glad to hit ground after that ship.
Oh,
what was it like on the ship?
It was terrible. I didn't know, but I had a bunk about 2 off the floor until somebody up above me got seasick. Then I learned you can find a top bunk, you grab it.
You don't want to be in the bottom in cases like that.
No, you get as high as you can.
It's like the chickens in the chicken coops. Nobody wants to be at the bottom. You want to be at the top.
I moved up in a hurry.
You got a top bunk.
Uh-huh.
You don't want to be rained on with that stuff.
Oh.
And but it was a pretty rough hurt to Pacific. And then
we went through.
What month did you leave on the ship?
We left in October, I believe it was, in October of '51. And we went through a major storm. The piano, I was right beside the rec room. The piano was chained to the wall. It thrashed so hard that the piano broke loose. One against the other wall, back and forth, and it smashed all the pieces.
It was up and down.
Oh, and so one day I decided I'd go up to take a look and see what was going on outside. I went up and I opened the door, and here was coming a wave about 15 feet high. I closed the door, locked it, and back down I went.
Are there any stories you would like to share about your time before shipping out to Korea? Was there any family things? Was there any riots? What was going on in America in your time in town? Was there any stories you want to share before shipping out? Family things? Anything?
No, I did luck out that one of the fellows I enlisted with was out there at the air base. I looked him up, and he was driving cab at night. So I used to go ride with him a little bit in the cab just to kill time because every day he got up and went out into the big field and waited to see if your name was called. If not, you had the rest of the day to yourself.
What do you mean a field?
Well, it was a big, I don't know what you'd call it, big mustering field. They had all the racks up with the ropes on them, so every day you climbed up and down the ropes in case you had to get off the ship into a landing barge or something, but we never had to.
Okay. How did your family feel about you leaving to go to Korea?
They never said anything about it, but I'm sure they were concerned. They never expressed any feeling about it. Just take care of yourself and all that. But I think now I know how they must have felt, because my grandson has just spent 2 tours in Afghanistan, and I know how we felt about it and his father felt. So
They might have been worried, but they didn't show.
Didn't say anything.
Did they have a going away party for you?
No, they just went on our way.
Okay, so you went to the airport and
Said goodbye.
Did you come home after basic training and technical training and went home first before you shipped out to California and got on the boat?
I came home from Florida for, I think, 10 days or something, and then just went to Syracuse and got on the plane.
It took you to California?
California.
How many men were on this ship that you left California with?
Oh, I don't I don't know. There's probably, I'm going to say 2,000 or 3,000. It was a troop ship.
Oh my gosh, huge.
The USS General Mann.
General Mann.
And a strange thing was, when I came back from Korea, I got into Japan, they put me on a ship, and I was walking up the gangplank, I looked, USS General Mann. Came back on the same ship I went over on.
What a coincidence. To go and come back.
Coming back, we had a lot of dependents on board, and so there was children and wives and all kinds of military personnel on there coming
also
back.
A lot of civilians and.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What did you think about going to fight in Korea? What did you think when you got on this ship?
Well, we were all young, gung-ho, you know, and we didn't really think much about it. It was something our duty. We wanted to go, and we went. Never thought another thing about it.
The World War II had just ended, and the Korean War was just beginning. Mm-hmm. Was there this still same sentiment about we have to protect our country? Was that in the back of your mind, or was that in the back of your parents' mind, you think?
Well, we all volunteered because, I guess, being patriotic. We all said, let's go and do it. And we, as I say, I didn't want to go in the Army and be digging foxholes. So, but we had, everybody just said something we had to do, and let's go do it.
When you got there, what was your impression about the Korean War when you got there?
Well, I arrived in a strange group. the reserve, they were Air Force reservists from Long Beach, California, and I thought this is war. I mean, these fellas, they were a bunch of comedians in a way, but they did their job. But they were comedians. Every day you had one fellow off, and all he did was run a camera up on top of an airplane for every plane that landed or took off, because our field was treacherous crosswinds. And there was accidents every day. So one day was my day to sit on top of an airplane with a camera and watch airplanes come in and take off to make sure that the next minute they wanted a picture of it. But they were all older. They were all older fellas, and they were very happy to see me, the first relief man in. So
you were a youngster, 19,
I was, yeah.
And they were older?
Yeah, they were all, I'd say, 30s and 40s.
I see.
Yeah.
Were they in World War II, you think?
I think they were, or just afterwards, probably. Yeah.
So they maintained their military status.
These are all reservists. Yeah.
Of course, you figure 45, 46, 50. And what year did you go to Korea?
I went to Korea in October of 1951. And I left out of there in February of 1953.
I wasn't even born then.
Thank you.
When you got to Korea, or you heard you were going to go fight, was it, oh my God, I'm going to go fight? Or was it the spirit against the communists Describe your reactions. You know, what you had. Was it, oh my God, I'm going to go, I'm going to have problems, or have this spirit of energy as a youngster? Describe your reactions to the Korean War.
Well, we were just, as I say, young. We were there to fight a war, and we never anticipated being there, number one. But after we got there, it was just a job to do, and we did it. We never thought too much about communism or that at that time. But we were there and to fight for Korea, and we did it.
Where in Korea were you stationed?
I was stationed about 20 miles, I'm going to estimate that, about 20 miles north of Busan, they call it Busan now, I believe, at K9 at the air base.
So you were in southern Korea.
Yeah. Just
southernmost.
Very far,
town.
yeah, very south, yeah.
Okay. What was your impressions when you got to Korea, when you first saw it? What was your first impressions when you saw Korea? You landed on a ship from Japan, right?
No, we flew in.
Oh, you flew in. What was your first impressions when you saw Korea?
I couldn't believe it. They were so, what do you want to call it, antiquated. I mean, they were so far behind in their times. I got a picture here in Busan of this is in 1952 in Busan. They have an officer in the middle of the street standing on a box directing traffic.
Doesn't look like too many cars are there.
No, there's no cars, mostly oxens and the carts and the bicycles.
So it's like a time zone?
And this one, all the Koreans down in the riverbed washing clothes. And
this was your first day there? You saw this?
Well, no. As we went in after we were there and situated on the base, we took a bus into town and we saw all this, and I just couldn't believe it.
So your base was different than the town?
Yes, we were about 20 miles from there. One of the strangest ones was in the sidewalks. There was an open channel with water flowing in it. And men and women would stop and relieve themselves in it right on the sidewalk and think nothing of it. You know, I mean, you'd look and say, well, it was unbelievable.
The sanitary conditions were not the best.
No, but this was the way they were living. I mean, it was in ages gone by, like.
So it was like, considered where you were from, it was like almost like the Stone Age.
It was unbelievable. Yes, it was.
You have another picture here?
This one is from Seoul in 1952 of what there was just bombed out ruins. There were a few buildings standing, but this is unbelievable to see what's there now. It's just bombed all the pieces. I imagine the North bombed it and the South bombed it and the Americans bombed it too.
So what you saw was a lot of devastation.
It was a lot of.
What about the people? I mean, you had to meet some people. What were your reactions to the people that you met? I mean,
well,
you were on a street. You took pictures, right?
Well, they didn't speak any English. Of course, we didn't speak any Korean, so there wasn't much intermingling with the people there. In fact, that's the only time we got into a city was Busan, and we used to take a bus down. They had a service bus, an army bus, and they'd run us down, and we'd go down to the Navy Pier to a club down there and drink, and then they'd take us back. And that was about the only thing we saw in town besides these going through town. We'd see these pictures, take these pictures.
So when you got there, you saw all this bombed out stuff, a town pretty desolate. What were you going to be fighting for? I mean, what was your realization? I mean, why am I here? You know, what do you think?
Well, you looked at it and you said, I don't know if this is worth preserving or not, but you were there to do a job and you did it. That's all. You just
you were just doing your duty and following orders.
And following orders and waiting for your day to go home. That's all.
Did you ever like sort of communicate with some of the townspeople at all?
No, never did.
Okay. So you talked about the living conditions. What were your living conditions like on the base? I mean, they were living in, devastation and stuff. What was your living conditions like on the base? And was it hard? Was there a lot of downtime? Did you have fun times, sad times?
Well, we had like once every 10 days we had a day off, but our barracks weren't that bad. You had a good bed if you could get enough blankets and stuff. And you had a little foot locker to keep your stuff in, but the conditions weren't that bad, except at night you always had a few visitors that were called rats. We had a lot of rats, and they'd try to drink out of your mess kit. Any water left in it, they'd come down, you'd hear the mess kit moving, so we had to we always slept with a mosquito net. But eventually they got control of that and got rid of the rats.
So that time it was warm, but I also heard that it was very cold.
Oh.
Now you slept in the mosquito nets in the summer.
And the winter.
Rats and everything.
In the winter.
In the wintertime, what was it like in the wintertime?
In the winter it was cold. I mean, it was really cold. I can remember out on the flight line, we had all these clothes on, they were, I want to say, fur-lined clothes and hat. But your eyes, because the wind coming down out of the valley was so cold, your eyes would water and it would freeze right on your face here. You'd have all kinds of ice and you had to pull it off. It was cold.
So you had cold days, warm days. What about the food? You had to eat?
That was a problem. Being on the flight line and working, we were always late for getting in. The food wasn't that bad. Considering what was going on. They did their best they could, but we cheated a little bit.
Tell us about your cheating.
We had these B-26s that would go to Japan every 200 hours for a major overhaul. And so we'd have the pilot and co-pilot, a bunch of us on the flight line, and give them some money and have them pick up some steaks and some potatoes, and they'd bring them back, and then we'd build a bonfire and cook our steaks and roast our potatoes. So we cheated a little bit every once or twice a month or so.
So normally you wouldn't eat steaks and potatoes. What were you eating during these?
Well, one time during the West Coast strike, we ate stew for 35 days in a row for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Stew all day?
Stew. That's all you had. They had a West Coast shipping strike, and we didn't get much to eat except stew. So.
And there was a cook that
They just dished up the stew. They had big pans of stew, and they'd say, "Hey, sorry, this is it." Well, you had to eat, so it wasn't that bad.
Did you get sick?
Not sick. Sick and tired of it.
Sick and tired, but you never were really ill there.
No.
You stayed pretty healthy.
And cold sometimes, but no, good.
Did you rotate home from Korea at all while you were stationed there? Did you come home?
No, nobody did. Never call. You didn't have telephones that would call out of the base, and you didn't rotate home. Nobody did.
So you were stationed in what little town again?
Well, it wasn't really a town. It was K9 Air Force Base.
In Busan?
North of Busan.
Okay. So you never left. You stayed in Korea for, 2 years?
No, I was there about 16 months.
Okay, so...
You were supposed to rotate after 11, but they kept losing my orders up in Taego. And I didn't mind the first time because I was figuring I'd be coming home in the first part of November, so I'd be home for Thanksgiving. I didn't mind that. Then the second time they didn't show up, I got, this is all right. I'll be home for Christmas. Then they didn't show up for Christmas, and now I was really upset. So my master sergeant said to me, "Don't you do it, but you write to your wife and have her get a hold of your congressman, and maybe he can get you out of here."
So you enlisted for what,
4 years.
4 years.
Mm-hmm.
But you were only going to be in Korea, hopefully for like 16 months.
Well, rotation was 11 months. At the time you got out of there, home be 12 months. Well, mine didn't come down in January either. And So our congressman was from Auburn, John Tabor, and he talked to the family and found out I wasn't home yet. Well, he was in charge of the armed forces. He made a call, and I'm out on the flight line working one day, and this Jeep pulls up, and the lieutenant gets out and says, "Who the hell is Taylor?" "That's me, sir." "Get in the Jeep." He said, "You're going home." I said, "Oh, thank you."
And that was 16 months?
So 16 months. So they put me in the Jeep. I said, "I got to clear the base." He says, "I'll clear it for you." He signed some paperwork. He says, "See that airplane sitting there? That's waiting for you. Get on it." When I got to Japan, they had a taxi waiting for me. Then I got in the taxi, and it took me to the USS General Mann. And the captain of the ship was there, and he wanted to know who I was. He says, "Get on this ship. We've been waiting for you." And I got on, and clank, up came the gangplank, and we're under motion.
Oh, my God.
I got a nice hand when I got on board. They said,
they could leave.
"We can finally leave." Yeah.
Wow, so you were hastily departing.
Well, John Tabor was important. I mean, he was the head of everything, so...
He was
they got me out of there.
Armed Services Congressman, you said?
Congressman John Tabor.
So one phone call and you were on your way.
I was on my way.
What'd you feel?
I was happy as can be. Then I was very happy to be on the General Mann because I knew the ship back and forward. So every morning I got up about 4 o'clock, went up on the deck, laid down, rolled under the gun turret. They had a big canvas over it, so they didn't find me for working KP.
And you got one of those top bunks, too.
Yes. And they eventually caught up with me about 2 days or 3 days out of San Francisco and put me on KP in the bakery.
So you were on the ground in Korea for 16, 18?
About 15 months total. You know.
4 more months than you wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
So you were home by March? Or?
I got home in March, I believe. Well, end of February or March. I know it was cold when I got home. So.
Must have been a nice St. Patrick's Day parade for you.
That I don't remember, yes.
What was your opinion of Korea, on the Koreans, on the South Korean Army? Did you meet any South Korean soldiers while you were there?
The only ones I met were at the end of a rifle. I had to go out and get some batteries one day, and I got checked by the guards on our base were Korean Army boys who had been wounded, and then they could guard an air base. And one of them checked me one day out in back of because we kept the batteries out in back. Then one night, I was out there getting hydraulic fluid right near the fence, and one had his carbine right on my head, and I kept saying to him, "Boy-san, GI, boy-san, GI," and finally he left, and that's the only way I met him.
He was really doing his job.
He was doing his job.
Did you learn anything from the Korean Army soldiers?
No. As I say, we never had that much contact with them. They didn't speak English, and we didn't speak Korean. So.
What were the most challenging, a challenging moment, a difficult moment, a happy moment, a rewarding memory? You can say the challenging one first, the difficult one, the happy one, the rewarding one during your duty. Was there any favorite or happy moment? Can you tell us any challenging moments?
Biggest challenge I had was I was on night crew and in charge of the night crew, and we got a call that a 500-pound bomb was laying on the runway, and they said it was our plane who had just taken off, so it belonged to us, and wanted it off of the runway. So they sent a lieutenant over, and he and I went out on the runway and pulled up in what they call a BST, a bomb service truck. And I looked at the bomb, and it had what we call a non-delay fuse in the nose and the tail, or just in the tail, that's right. And that's a fuse that is set to go off after it's spins so many times the impeller, it's armed. There's a little vial of acid in there to eat through the trigger and set it off. Well, that the wire had pulled out, and the impeller is sitting there spinning, so we don't know if it's armed or not. So we decided to pick it up in the back of a pickup on the bomb truck and get it out of there. So we picked it up and took it down to the end of the runway and got it off the runway so the planes could take off. And then all the bomb armament men were on R&R. So that never happened again, I'll tell you.
There was always somebody going to be there.
Yes, and there was two of them that were both on R&R, so we took that bomb down, and then we got the book out, and he and I defused the bomb.
You
and they are not supposed to be able to be defused, so there is a section in there how to defuse it. We got the fuse out.
Were you sweating?
Oh, wringing wet. And the lieutenant, he was so nervous that he's trying to hold the flashlight. I'm starting to work the tools.
What tools did you use, like a screwdriver?
No, there's a tool. We had the tools to get on it and start working it back. But we had to take the fuse apart.
And all the time this thing could have
gone off.
Because it was spinning, right?
Yeah, we didn't know it was armed or not. Hopefully it wasn't, I guess, but we got it out. We left there after we got it defused, and the lieutenant says, I have a bottle of whiskey in my barracks. We went into the barracks and drank a quart of whiskey between he and I, and all these officers are coming in and looking, what's he doing here? And the lieutenant had to tell him what happened. So that was my memorial moment there.
That was a challenging. Was that a challenging and a difficult one? Was there a difficult
that kind of locks up all three right there, and then we were very happy.
Was there any happy moments besides? I mean, you were glad that the bomb didn't explode, obviously, but was there any other days that you might have had a happy day?
No, not really. Nothing exciting, except when when the lieutenant pulled up and said, "You're going home. Come on, let's go."
That was a happy day.
Yeah.
Were there any rewarding memories that you did something for somebody, or somebody did something for you? Or
well, I think about it now. I had this fellow Stangaroni. Stangaroni was his name, and he went out to get a battery one day for the hydraulic lift, and I don't know if it was at dusk or what, but it was dark, and he lit a match and held it up and looked in the battery, and it blew up. Whatever hit me, and he had acid all over him in his eye. I picked him up. We had rain barrels at the corner of the barracks. I picked him up by his feet and dunked him. And he come out, he was coughing and spitting. I put him back in again and brought him out. I guess we got him over to the hospital. They said that probably saved his sight. So I kept hollering at him, open your eyes on the water. So they said it probably saved his sight. So that was a happy one.
So you're a hero.
Yeah, I'm a real hero.
I bet he must. Did he ever call you?
No, he left shortly thereafter for home and never heard from him again. Yeah.
He might be thinking about you.
No, he might be.
You should look him up. I mean, how many people are named Stangaroni?
Well, I don't know if I can even remember his first name. So we all had pet names for everybody, and
that might have happened that you can remember. Anybody get injured?
Well, I'd rather not get into that one. No.
Okay. On your base, you met the Koreans that were injured. They were guarding the place. Were there any other foreign troops or allies that you did encounter? Did you meet any Turkish people, Canadians?
Met some British. They had a base just off to our south, I guess it would be. There was a British contingent up there. We met them not under favorable circumstances. Seems that one of the fellows jumped in the airplane. Don't know what he did, but he hit the trigger and he fired about 10 or 15 rounds into their base out of the 50 caliber machine guns.
Wake everybody up?
It was during the daytime, and they were all in the mess hall. That was the thing that saved them. Yeah. He went and saw the...
What nationality was this?
They were British.
British.
Uh-huh.
They didn't know what they were doing.
Well, no, it was our American that shot at the British base. They were just tents up on the side hill, just a small detachment, and he kind of shook them up a little
I
bit.
guess.
Luckily, he didn't hit anybody.
Oh, boy, that would have been sad.
Yeah.
So you weren't too fond of the British?
Well, they were all right. We talked to them, you know, but they were a little standoffish after that.
Stay away.
Mhm.
Keep them out of the plane. Were there any battles that impacted you that you'll never forget? Were there any battles you remember?
No, we were so far from the front lines that we didn't get into, you know, any contact or anything. We used to get shot at night by this Korean up in the hills, and nobody paid too much attention to it. We just had a lot of holes in the roof and had to patch the next day, till he got a heavier gun, and I don't know what he got, but then he really tore up the cement blocks and everything. So the next day the army went up the hill with bulldozers, flamethrowers, and all loaded with caves, and we never had any more shots shot at us.
Was there anybody injured by this? Was a sniper, obviously?
Yeah, he was a sniper, but he never hit anybody or hurt anybody that I know of. But
So he was either a bad shot or he was just being a nuisance.
Nuisance, that's what we called him, a nuisance, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Off would go the pop, 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 and grab your helmets and head outdoors and get in the sandbags and wait till he got through. But,
When you were discharged from the military, what did you do, and did you have to adjust to life in America? Did you get a welcoming home party? I mean, you got on the ship from Mr. Tabor and everything. You were glad to go home, but when you got home and discharged, what did you do?
just came home and more or less unpacked. Went to New York City for a 3-day vacation with the wife. Came home and went to work.
You were married when you enlisted?
I got married while I was in the service
Oh, like,
out at Lowry Air Force Base in Denver.
oh, did you get married in Denver, or did you go home?
Right on the base in the
Your
chapel.
wife came to Denver.
My wife and her mother and father and my mother and father.
How unique is that to get married while you're in the Army and they came to the base?
Yeah.
They must have
And-
loved you to come all the way there to get married.
Well, we had a wedding date set up for the summer, and they knew I wouldn't be around, so we went out there, and once she came out, and we got married out there. Yeah.
So nobody was going to wait. Nobody wanted
No.
to wait to get married.
No.
Until you got out. You
Yeah,
wanted to get
we're-
married right away.
Right away. Do it today.
And how old were you when you got married?
Whew, well, let's see, 20, I guess it was.
20. You remember the anniversary date?
April 21st or something. That's not her. April 21st or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
April 21st. So that was springtime.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. You know, were you a bad guy for going? Were you a good guy for going? What did people think when you got back?
Nobody ever said anything, and I never expected, a parade. I didn't. We just did a job. We went and did a job and came home. And I often heard about closure. You're supposed to get closure. You're supposed to be welcomed home. And I never felt that I was supposed to get that. And what was it, 3 years ago, I went back to Korea on that Korean tour. And when I saw what they had accomplished there, of course, everything is new, and the people were so grateful, and walked down the street with your tag on, and one of our members had written on there in Korean that we were a Korean War veteran. People on the street would hug you, shake your hand, say thank you. I got my closure then. I really did. That meant a lot to me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I never expected it, but it came in that form.
So when you got back to Korea and you saw these big high-rises, it probably reminded you of that one corner where there was nothing there and it bombed out. Shells and
Nothing but
buildings.
ruins, I remember. And the job, and all, at that time, there was hardly any trees. Now it's all green. They've planted 50 million trees, and it's all green, and they've really done a wonderful job.
What do you think of the politics in Korea now? I mean, you went back. Did you talk to people there about the politics?
No, well, a little bit. A couple of the fellows that were with us talked about that with them, and they're very happy. Of course, it's modeled after our system, and it's very easy to pick up, and I think they've done a good job with it.
Okay. Let's see here. Do you ever dream about Korea?
No.
You have any bad dreams, good dreams?
No, never have.
Just the bomb.
I remember that I remember that one very vaguely. Yeah.
Have any dreams about that bomb at
all? No, nightmare, but not a dream.
Nightmares.
Yeah.
Okay, so you do wake up in the middle of the night.
No, I never think about it. I mean, I think back about the time we did that, and then I say, it was just part of a job, and thank you, I'm still here.
Do you have any animosity against the communists for doing what they did?
Not really. No, they were doing what they thought was right, and I mean, it was war, and who's right and who's wrong, I don't know.
And you've been out of the war. You were left in 53, you said?
53. Mm-hmm.
So it's close to 60 years. You're going to have an anniversary of the Korean War in 60 years. Do you ever think about Korea and what happened over there with friends or anything? Do you talk to people? Do you belong to any organizations that you talk to people?
Well, I belong to the Korean War Veterans Association, and we talk about it and the different stories and the things that they did and I did, but it's just talk among veterans mostly,
And when you went back to Korea, you were hugged and everything by the Korean people.
Mm-hmm.
That had to be really emotional from what you said.
It was. I mean, as I say, that came closure to me. I just never expected it, and everywhere you went, they were so nice, and just couldn't believe that they would treat us like that.
The children wouldn't know you, though. The children.
No,
it's
a
the
little difference with the younger ones.
You think they forgot?
I don't know if they forgot or they just don't know what happened.
Because I hear the same thing about the forgotten war. And it was a police action. What do you think of those phrases? The forgotten war versus the police action. What do you think?
Well, it was a war. It wasn't a police action. It was a war. And they called it forgotten war. And why, I don't know. Because when we're out selling these Rose of Sharon poppies, people say thank you for what you did, and down in Auburn there. And I just think that they know it. I don't know where they got the forgotten war from, but
did the flowers you're selling say anything like that on them?
The Rose of Sharon, I can't tell you offhand.
Does it say never forget?
Never forget. Freedom is not free.
And it's a Rose of Sharon, the national flower
of Korea. Mm-hmm.
What's the significance of the poppy? I mean, do you know what that might be? I mean, the Korean War has this Rose of Sharon.
Mm-hmm.
What's the poppy for? You have any idea what that?
Well, I'm sure it has some meaning. I don't know exactly.
Mm-hmm. It seems like the flowers always seem to be recollecting all these wars. You're going to be on TV and the website for future generations. What would you like to say to the future generations? That everyone, you're going to be gone, buried, ashes. What would you like to say to these people that are going to be watching this website or this video about your experiences, the war, anything you want to say?
Well, I just hope they don't forget what happened. I mean, it was a war. It wasn't a police action. It was a war, and hopefully we learned something from it. But as I see the country now, where the world, the turmoil we're in again, I don't think we ever will. So I just hope they don't forget what happened and then they get some idea of what went on over there. So
I see Arlington Cemetery. I see all these cemeteries for the Korean War vets. You had to have somebody that was close to you that didn't come home.
not really.
Or
Most
friends.
of my friends, they all came home, and have died naturally. That the five of us that went in all came back, and so.
What would you say about the legacy of the Korean War vets? We hear the Civil War heroes. We hear about the World War II heroes. What legacy do you think you can say about the Korean War veterans? What do you think about the Korean War veterans themselves? You belong to an organization that has hundreds of members. You meet with them all the time. You must talk about, the people don't like us or the people love us. What do you think about the legacy of the Korean War vet?
Well, I have never seen anybody that's been upset with any of the Korean War vets. I think that they went there and fought, came home, and everybody that I know of approved of it. They never were talked down to or anything like that. I think we had a job to do and we did it. And I don't know how to say this, we didn't come home expecting a lot, expecting a parade, expecting great things. We went and did our job and came home, went to work.
I saw you brought some albums.
Mm-hmm.
You have some other photographs. Can you describe some of these?
Well, as I say,
and the story behind them?
What we have here is we're out on the line with their loading the planes. This is our hydraulic hoist that has the batteries that I was talking about.
Uh-huh.
And there's your 350 caliber machine guns and 500-pound bombs they're putting on the wings.
Is this you loading the bomb?
I don't think so. I don't think it is. So,
what are these guys doing? They're clamping it on?
It hooks. There's two rings on it, and you go up and you lock it into the stanchion, they call it, up on the wing. These are old B-26 and B-25.
Now these are live bombs.
Right. Well, you have to put a fuse in the nose.
That makes them, just before
That's
they take
what
off?
arms them. Yeah.
Who does that?
We do, after we get through, and then you put a wire through it. And this is all the old B-26s, B-25. We lost so many B-26s, they were bringing in B-25s that were used in World War II.
How many men are on the B-25, the B-26?
Usually 4. There might be one gunner.
I'm sorry.
There might be one gunner up in the top turret. Might be the bombardier and a pilot and co-pilot. Sometimes there's only 3, the gunner and the pilot and co-pilot. Co-pilot would be the bombardier.
And that carried, how many bombs?
Well, we'd have 4 500s, 2 on each wing. And internally, we use mostly 220 fragmentation bombs, and we'd put I think it was 44 in the bomb bay, 2 bomb bays.
They were in the belly of the plane.
Yep. I don't know if no, I don't have it, but the bomb bay was underneath here, and they would put them in.
How did they push them up into the belly?
No, we hand loaded them.
Lifted them.
Lifted.
You could drop one.
Oh yes, you could. It was a 3-man crew. That's what ruined my back. But you had the crew would set them all up outside, and then 2 fellows would set them up onto a wooden stand that we had, and then the 3 of us inside. You'd have a piece of pipe in the nose. One fellow would grab it by the pipe. One would grab the tail fin, and they'd bring it up to here. Guy in the middle would cradle it while you changed your hands, and then hang it up on the rack.
Now these are not armed yet.
No.
Because the pipe is going down the middle.
Yeah, but the pipe was put into the nose of the...
I think they would have come up with an easier way to...
Well, underneath there was no way to get anything in there to lift them, and we used to have contests. There were 3 squadrons on the base, and we used to have contests to see who could do it the fastest. We used to win quite often, but 3 of us come out with bad backs.
So you used to load the bombs.
Mm-hmm.
And all these photographs have the planes that you loaded. When would they load them? Like immediately before takeoff? Or
We loaded
before?
all day. And we were a night squadron. And they sent as you see, these planes here are black. And they painted them, when they went to Japan for overhaul, they painted them black because we were in the night raiders. And that worked out well until one sunny day a general wanted a bridge knocked out. Each squadron sent up 12 planes, 36 planes went up, black airplanes in the middle of the day. We got 3 back in our squadron. I think one of the squadrons got 5 or 6, and one of them got 1 back.
Because it stuck out.
They stuck out black airplanes in a sunny day. Boom.
So
Those
are the soldiers that didn't return.
Yeah, that night it was awfully quiet on the base.
Did
Yeah.
they ever rescue anybody? Did they go look for these people?
I imagine a lot of them got shot up and landed at other bases. But some eventually come back, but then they started bringing in other planes.
They sent out like search and rescue helicopters?
No, what they could fly back, I don't know what they did up there with
Now
them.
they were going to bomb a location distant from your base.
Yeah, up in the North Korea.
During the day.
During the day, up in North Korea. Yeah,
And that was a fatal mistake.
very bad.
Did the general say anything, or?
Who knows? I mean, the orders came down to have those planes loaded, and we got over there very early in the morning, got them loaded, and
And they couldn't do this at night?
he wanted out during the day. They wanted to see what they were doing.
Somebody must have had orders to tell him, get him out now.
So it must have been a very important bridge.
So how many planes left and how many planes?
36 left,
36.
and I think back at our base we got like about 9 back, but there were planes that landed at other bases.
So
They couldn't make it back.
Returned, you think?
I don't think half of them made it back. I don't know.
Wow.
Awful day.
Wow, that must have been a really sad day.
It was, as I say, it's very quiet at the base that night. We would sleep by airplanes going off every 6 minutes, I think it was, a plane left. And then when they started coming back, just lulled you to sleep. When we got socked in with fog or snowstorm and couldn't see, and the planes didn't fly, we'd sit up all night, couldn't sleep. We were used to that noise all night long. It was just like sleep at it. And,
And they were going out to bomb distant locations?
Yep, they were going north every night, coming back.
Hmm.
Yeah, so.
Okay. Well, do you have anything else? Those are the pictures? Or?
No, that's it.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much. It was
You're
a
welcome.
wonderful interview. I
Thank
think
you.
people are going to enjoy this one.
Thank you.
Thank you.